The Teagasc Farmers Journal Better Farm Beef Programme was a programme that was launched in September 2008, and it's a joint initiative with industry. We have other key sponsors, AIBP, Dawn Meats, Keepack and FBD. And really it's a programme that was looking at driving efficiency on beef farms, targeting really driving output and trying to control costs. I mean, it wasn't really about trying to cut costs, but we were trying to control the costs that were out on farm, because one of the big issues on Irish farms is that even because our output is so low in terms of the kilograms of live weight per hectare that we're producing, and as a result our output value per hectare of that beef, really at the end of the day, with a low output, even with modest variable costs, we're not going to achieve a high gross margin. And that's a fundamental problem. You can shave your cost to a certain degree, but you can't get rid of them. So it was very obvious to us we would try and control the costs and at the same time try and drive our output on those farms. We chose 16 commercial beef farms from around the country. They all had suckler cow bases, predominantly spring calving. Cow numbers ranged from 32 cows to about 125 cows, and there was a range of systems within that. So we had about a third of them producing weanlings, we had a third of them selling store cattle, and we had about a third of them finishing. We also had two agricultural colleges, Clonakilty and Kildalton, involved in the overall programme. And you know, really, we obviously went out and looked at the farms and selected the individual farmers. And one of the key things that we looked for is we wanted farmers that were enthusiastic, we wanted farmers that were open to technology, and we wanted farmers that were going to drive on profit and were interested in increasing profit. So we had a receptive audience to start with, which is hugely important in any development programme. Well, the first starting point that we looked at was we said, okay, if you're going to start any development programme, we need to have a baseline of information that we're going to be able to assess where these farmers are at relative to the current population that's out there, and in order to be able to measure progress over the 3-year duration of the programme. So baseline information was critical. And we asked the farmers to do two things. We asked them to submit a profit monitor for 2008. Which was the year previous to the programme starting. And we also asked them to sign up to ICBF Herd Plus, because we wanted to look at breeding efficiency and their overall output from that aspect. We also had access to animal weigh-ins, mart dockets, factory kill sheets, just to look at where they were at in terms of weight for age and their overall efficiency. We had the profit monitor told us about stocking rate, it told us about kilograms of output per hectare, kilograms of output per livestock unit. It also told us basically that what the value of output per hectare these lads were producing, what the costs associated with that were, and then ultimately the gross margin. Now, we only report as far as gross margin, but we do the figures right down to net margin. In relation to what have we targeted? Well, because we're looking at output, we targeted a number of areas. We targeted breeding efficiency. The national statistics tell us that we produce 80 calves per 100 cows per year. The group, as a group, we're producing 87 calves per 100 cows. So areas that we targeted there were, we looked at tightening up the calving pattern. So we looked at culling out late calvers. We looked at bringing in heifers before the main group of cows to give them longer to get back and calve again, because we wanted a calf per cow per year. And as well as that, we wanted to condense the calving down to 12 to 14 weeks. With that, you had a sort of a homogenous group of stock that were at the same stages all along. And from a labour efficiency, a disease point of view, it was much more efficient to try and do that. So, I mean, in order to get cows back on heat again, at 30 days we took calves off them. We sucked the cows twice a day, and within 10 days the cows were back cycling. And that came directly as a piece of research that Professor Michael Diskin had done in Athenry. We worked on the animal health side. Our view was that, okay, we need to produce as many live calves as we can. When we get them calved, keep them living. So we've reduced mortality from about 4.5% at birth down to about 2.8%. So we've looked at sire selection. We don't want difficult calving bulls. We want good functional cows that have the ability to calve, that produce enough milk to get very, very good weight for age in the calves. And the other area, I suppose, that we looked at was animal health was a massive issue on those farms. A lot of problems with scurs, pneumonias and that on a few of the farms in particular. That added to costs and kept output down. So we had to address those, and at the onset of the programme we didn't envisage that to be as big a problem as it turned out to be. So we've worked with the regional veterinary labs, Animal Health Ireland and local vets where we could to try and improve and get the mentality amongst farmers that you need to be more proactive. Health planning is much better than just reacting to the problem when it hits the ground. So we've taken on a veterinary student this year who's looking at all the health issues on the farms, and we'll draw up an animal health plan. We also have 2 technicians that are out doing weigh-ins on farms. So basically we weigh the cattle at turnout, we weigh them mid-season, and we weigh them at housing again. And we'll weigh them more frequently on some farms if we're targeting a particular market. But essentially what we have done is that we're targeting weight for age. And we want to see where the animals, where these farms are good and where they're falling down. And I suppose the other area is that when the farmer knows the market he's supplying for, he knows the weight ranges that he must hit. And also we try by doing financial budgets at the various life stages of the animal to see when's the optimum time to sell. So if we're going to produce more kilos of live weight, we also want to try and optimise what we're going to get for it. So all of these areas were built into the farm plan that was drawn up for each of the farms. And we basically said, this is your starting point, this is where we want you at the end of 2011, and these are the actions needed under grassland management, under breeding management, under animal health that's going to get you there. And I mean, one of the big drives that we had is we're a grass-based country. We wanted to extend the grazing period. We wanted these lads to become good grassland managers because we knew it was a cheaper way of driving animal performance and keeping our costs down. And you know, we're quite confident that at the end of the 3 years, when we turn to the 16 farmers in the programme, we're quite happy that they're now competent grassland managers. They understand the process. They know how to get better utilisation out of their grass, which is key for every farmer in the country over the longer term. One of the key areas in year 1 was grassland management. And in grassland management, we supplied each of the farmers with a plate meter, which measures our grass yields. We set up maybe additional paddocks on the farms to get better utilisation. And all the farms today would have more paddocks in place than they did have at the start of the programme. But we also tried to streamline the groupings of stock on the farm. I mean, I remember being involved in a farm walk last year in the West where a farmer in 2009 had 16 groups of stock on his farm when we started the programme. He had more cattle on the farm in 2010, but that was down to 7 groups. Now that's much simplifies your grassland management if you allocate 5 or 6 paddocks per animal grouping, and it's much more manageable from farm level. But the farmers were encouraged to walk their farms every week, and basically we wanted to see them to show how grass was growing on their farms, to assess was there a problem coming down the tracks in terms of were they going to have too much grass, were they going to have too little, and they could anticipate a problem well in advance of one happening and could take appropriate action. Equally, the grassland measurement opened up and we were able to see the dry matter production of each of the paddocks, and we were very quickly able to identify what paddocks were growing more grass relative to others and maybe why that was. And you know, we soil tested all the farms, we found out the P and K status of the soils. We've been driving to try and improve the indexes of phosphate and potassium in those soils so we could grow more grass. But we've also incurred a lot of extra reseeding to take out the unproductive paddocks. Now, for a 3-year programme, you know, that's an additional expense. But I mean, we have to look beyond the 3 years of the programme and basically say to ourselves, okay, the longer term aim for this farm and to use grass efficiently, you're going to have to do these steps. So we'll incur the cost now, but the payback for you as a farmer will be in 3 years, 5 years time. So we did incur extra costs over and above the average farm out there in relation to the grassland management. In relation to the breeding, as I said, we've tried to tighten up calving pattern. We've looked at the production of the suckler cows. A suckler cow is a dear animal to keep on any farm. She's even more expensive if she's not producing a calf, or she's producing a calf that's behind target weight for age-wise. So we either culled out poorer performing older cows, we've looked to bring in better quality heifers. We've put more emphasis on milk, and milk being the driver of animal performance up to weaning stage on these. And we've looked at cows that are functional. We don't want cows that are over big, but that are basically good to work with, have a reasonable temperament, produce a calf every year, produce good quality calf because we want our kilo of live weight value to increase, and will calve every year, and has the potential milk-wise to drive on that calf when the calf hits the ground. So those are, and by using the Herd Plus information from ICBF, we've been able to track their performance. Like, we produced 87 calves per 100 cows in 2008. We produced 92 calves per 100 cows in 2009, and then with culling and etc., we're back to 90 calves per 100 cows, but our target is 94, 95 calves per 100 cows as we get into 2011. But all the farmers will admit 3 years from a breeding perspective is a very short time, and they'll see their benefits of what they're doing probably in 5 years more so than what they're doing at the moment over the course of 3 years of the programme. So the other area, I suppose, is we've done much more testing of animals from a screening point of view, animal health. We use fecal sampling, blood sampling, we take nasal swabs. We use the veterinary labs a lot more than maybe the average farmer would to try and get on top of a problem and then come up with a solution. And we're much more in favour of having a health programme in place for the farm than sort of just saying, right, well, I've got a scar problem or a pneumonia problem, I better react now. We try and prevent rather than be sort of faced with a program, faced with a problem. So I mean, all of that is, you know, is hugely important. As I say, we're doing regular weigh-ins. We have grass weighing program or animal weighing programs available to the farmers. We have our grass programs available to the farmers, and we're using all of that to try and drive their overall performance. The program is very successful. I mean, the bottom line, as far as we're concerned, is mortality is down, percentage females in the herd, not calving, is down. Our calves per cow per year are up, and our calving interval is way below the national average, which is a fantastic improvement. In terms of kilograms of output, we've lifted kilograms of output by 32.8%. In other words, we're producing 11,261 kilos more per farm compared to 2008. Our variable costs have gone up by about 13%, but relative to output, our variable costs, which were 62% of gross output in 2008, are now 55% of output in 2010, and we'll be hoping to bring that back further. And the real story is that our gross margin at the start of the programme was €386, which left us below average in terms of the profit monitor farms in terms of gross margin. The gross margin has increased by 45.8%, so we're €563 per hectare this year. And the average population is actually, their gross margin from 2008 in real terms has gone down 7%. So we're up 45.8%. The national population are back 7%. So, you know, the message is clear. We should operate simple, focused systems, and it shows that technology, when it's applied in a targeted way and you have a receptive group of farmers, does work.